Good morning all. Today we are going to study about single phase fully controlled rectifier for DC motor. In our last video session we have seen the various methods employed for achieving speed control in a DC motor. Those were armature voltage control, field flux control and armature resistance control. Among those, the most preferred one was armature voltage control. This was because of its high efficiency, good transient response and a better speed regulation. In armature voltage control, the variable speed is obtained by providing a variable voltage supply across the armature terminals of the DC motor. Variable voltage for the DC motor can be provided by using a transformer with tappings followed by an uncontrolled rectifier. Since this is an uncontrolled rectifier, the switches which are used here are actually diodes. By varying the tappings of this transformer at the secondary, we will be able to provide a variable voltage at the input side of this uncontrolled rectifier. Since the input side voltage is a variable one, the output DC which is obtained will be also a variable one. While providing this variable DC supply across this armature terminals, we will be able to. The next method which is being used for armature voltage control is Watt-Leonard drive. The arrangement for Watt-Leonard drive is shown here. The M is actually indicating the motor whose speed has to be controlled. The speed is controlled by varying the voltage which is provided across its armature. The field winding is being supplied by using a uncontrolled or controlled rectifier. There must be a reversal switch or some reversal arrangement in order to change the direction of current flowing through this field winding of this motor. The supply, that is the armature supply to this motor, is being provided by using a DC shunt generator, and the mechanical input for this DC shunt generator is being provided by using a AC motor. This can be either a synchronous motor or a three-phase induction motor. So this motor generator set is actually mechanically coupled and these are electrically coupled. The variable voltage at the output of this DC generator is obtained by varying the current which is flowing through this field winding of this DC generator. As all of you are very familiar with the generated EMF relation in the case of a DC generator, induced EMF is equal to 5PNZ by 60A. Once while varying the current which is flowing through this field winding, we will be able to change the voltage which is induced in the armature conductor, since E is directly proportional to phi. While varying the induced EMF, the corresponding terminal voltage of this DC generator also gets varied. This is actually the voltage which is being provided at the armature terminals of the DC motor whose speed has to be varied. So while varying the voltage at the terminals of this DC generator, it is same as that of varying the armature voltage which is being applied across this motor. Hence speed control of this motor can be achieved. The major benefit by using this Watt-Leonard drive is all the four quadrant operation can be achieved while providing the current which is flowing through this field winding in one particular direction. We will be able to achieve motoring and reverse regenerative braking in one particular direction, assume let it be clockwise. Then in the next mode, while reversing the switch over here or by some other alternative arrangement, we will be reversing the current which is flowing through this field winding. When the current which is flowing through this field winding is reversed, definitely the direction of rotation of this motor is also reversed. In the previous case it was clockwise, now it will become anti-clockwise. And by varying the voltage across these terminals, we will be able to achieve both motoring as well as braking operation in the reverse direction also. Hence by using this arrangement, we will be able to achieve all the four quadrant modes of operation. The major disadvantage of this method is the capital outlay involved for the speed control of this DC motor is quite high, because we have to use a separate DC motor generator, we have to use a separate motor generator set in order to achieve the speed control of this DC shunt motor. That is actually in addition to the speed control of the machine which is to be varied, two additional machines are also involved. So overall capital outlay of this Watt-Leonard drive is quite high, but still they are widely used in practice. This is because of their sensitive speed control. That is, very fine speed control can be achieved by using this technique. Whereas in the case of this previous method, in order to achieve the speed control, we will be able to achieve the speed control by varying the tappings provided at the secondary of this transformer. So here the speed control can be achieved only in steps. Next we are going to see how speed control is being achieved by using control rectifier. Broadly, this control rectifier are classified into two. They are actually single phase and three phase control rectifiers. The single phase control rectifiers are further classified into two, that is a single phase fully control rectifier as well as single phase half control rectifier. Similarly, three phase control rectifiers are also classified into two. They are three phase fully control rectifier and three phase half control rectifier. You are quite familiar about all these types of rectifiers in your power electronics course. Anyway, we will see them once again in detail here. First, let's see the single phase fully controlled rectifier for DC drive. In this case, the variable voltage across the armature terminals are being provided with the help of a single phase fully controlled rectifier. Since it's a fully controlled rectifier, all the four devices which are used here are thyristors. By varying the firing angle of these devices, we will be able to achieve variable voltage across these terminals which are being provided across the armature of this DC motor. Since all these devices or all these thyristors are unidirectional devices, the current flow will be only in one particular direction. So if you are seeing here, if the current is flowing in this positive x-axis direction, the voltage can be achieved in both positive as well as negative direction, as shown here, that is in quadrant 1 operation and quadrant 4 operation. Quadrant 1 operation is actually forward motoring, whereas quadrant 4 operation is reverse braking. This is achieved, that is the variable voltage which is being available or the variable voltage which is being provided across this armature terminals can have both positive polarity as well as negative polarity. This is possible by varying the firing angle. When the firing angle is less than 90 degrees, the voltage which is appearing across these terminals will be positive one. That is, here it will be positive and here it will be negative. Whereas if the firing angle which is being provided for this thyristors are greater than 90, then definitely here positive polarity won't be there, instead negative polarity, and here positive polarity will be there. Accordingly, the direction of back EMF which is being induced in the motor also gets reversed. So we will be able to get both positive polarity as well as negative polarity across this armature, but the direction of current remains to be a positive direction only. Hence, we will be able to achieve both first quadrant operation as well as fourth quadrant operation, that is forward motoring as well as reverse regenerative braking operation. Usually, the single phase control rectifiers are used for having power ratings less than 10 kilowatts. If the power rating is more than 10 kilowatts, then we will go for three phase control rectifier. Next, we will see how a single phase half control rectifier is used to feed a DC motor. Here, if you are seeing in this diagram, in this leg both switches used are actually diodes. They are actually uncontrolled switches. With this arrangement, we will be able to achieve only voltage in one particular polarity, that is in positive polarity. Hence, only one quadrant operation is possible with the single phase half control rectifier. The arrangement for single phase fully controlled rectifier for DC motor is shown here. In this diagram, the electrical equivalent of DC motor is drawn. The electrical equivalent of DC motor is drawn here as a series connection of armature resistance, armature inductance, and a source which is used to represent the back EMF. The input voltage source is indicated as Vs, and it is shown here as this dotted line. You will be able to see very clearly. So this is actually the source voltage. It is also indicated here. You have studied about both the discontinuous and continuous mode of operations in the case of a single phase controlled rectifier. Continuous mode of operation is achieved for a large value of inductance. That is what you have studied in power electronics. When the inductance value of the load is small, definitely the mode of operation will be a discontinuous one. Whereas if the inductance value in the load is large, the mode of operation will be a continuous one. But in the case of a DC motor, once the design and the construction has been made, the value of inductance is set to be a constant one. Therefore, both continuous and discontinuous mode of operation can be achieved with the variable torque load system. That is, from the standard relation of a DC motor torque, you very well know that torque is directly proportional to phi Ia. Here the motor which is taken into consideration is actually a separately excited one, whose field is being provided with a separate DC source, which is actually a constant DC source. Therefore, the field is said to be a constant one. Hence, we can say that torque is directly proportional to Ia. So, when the value of torque is large, that is when the load torque is large, definitely the current which has to be supplied to this armature also will be large. That is, when the load torque is large, definitely the armature current value also will be large. For a large value of armature current comparing with that of the small values of armature current, the time taken for charging and discharging will be more, because inductor doesn't allow sudden change of current. Please keep this point in your mind. This is actually a very important point. This inductor is having a property that it doesn't allow sudden change of current. So when you are changing the torque from a small value, or when you are changing the load from a small torque to a large torque one, then definitely the current which is being taken by the motor also changes from a small value to a large value. Since the inductor doesn't allow sudden change of current, hence the time taken for charging and discharging of the large value of current will be large comparing with that of a small value of current. Or we can say that comparing with that of a small torque load, the time taken for charging and discharging in the case of a large torque load will be more. Hence, this continuous mode of operation and discontinuous mode of operation can be explained while considering the torque range. If the torque range is actually a small one, then definitely the mode of operation will be discontinuous one. Whereas if the torque range is actually a large, or the torque load or the load torque is actually a large value, then definitely the operation will be a continuous mode. Now let's do the analysis of a discontinuous mode of operation in detail. So when you are seeing here in this diagram, the thyristors T1 and T3 are forward biased during the positive half. This is actually the positive half. During this positive half, thyristors T1 and T3 are forward biased, that is from 0 to pi, and T2 and T4 are forward biased from pi to 2 pi. Here very clearly given that we are giving the firing signal only at a firing angle of alpha. This is actually the firing angle alpha. Since we had given triggering only at this, or the firing only at this particular angle, these two thyristors gets turned on only at this particular instant. When these two thyristors are turned on, the voltage which is being applied across the armature is same as that of the source voltage. So at this instant you will be able to see the source voltage is directly applied across the armature. So from alpha to pi, this inductor gets charged with the positive polarity at the upper side and the lower side having negative polarity. After pi, the polarity of the inductor gets reversed according to the Lenz's law. That is, the lower side will be having positive polarity and upper side will be having negative polarity, and this charge which is being stored at the inductor begins to discharge, or the EMF which is being induced in this inductor begins to discharge. Hence there will be a flow of current like this. From this inductor the current will be flowing like this. Even though these two thyristors are reverse biased, since there is a flow of current due to the discharge of this inductor, these two thyristors still remain to be in turned on position itself. So the thyristors T1 and T3 doesn't get turned off at instant pi. They will get turned off only when the current which is flowing through this thyristors due to the discharge of this inductor becomes 0. That is shown here at instant beta. So from alpha to pi, this inductor gets charged with a positive polarity at upper side and negative polarity at lower side. From pi to beta, this inductor gets discharged. During this instant, or during this duration, that is from pi to beta, due to the discharge of this inductor, there occurs a flow of current through this thyristors. Hence, even though these two thyristors are reverse biased due to this flow of current, they remain to be in on position. Hence, the output voltage which will be coming across this armature terminals will be same as that of the source voltage till angle beta. See, so from alpha to beta we will be able to get the source voltage across the armature terminals. At beta, both these thyristors gets turned on, and the next pair of thyristors T2 and T4 gets turned on only at instant pi plus alpha, which is quite far from beta. So from beta to pi plus alpha, none of these thyristors are conducting. So during this period, the voltage which is appearing across these armature terminals will be the back EMF, and the back EMF is shown here. So that will be the voltage which will be appearing across this armature during the instant from beta to pi plus alpha. At pi plus alpha, again this thyristors T2 and T4 gets turned on, or they gets triggered. When they are getting triggered, the voltage which is being supplied to them will be available across this load, that is shown here very clearly. This particular operation is said to be a discontinuous mode because the current comes to a point of zero current between the instant beta and pi plus alpha. Hence, the current is taking zero value in between. This particular mode of conduction is said to be a discontinuous one. Now let's consider if this torque, the motor load torque is quite large. When the motor load torque is large, definitely the current which is being taken by the motor also will be large. See, comparing with this diagram, you will be able to see here the magnitude of current is quite large. Since this inductor doesn't allow sudden change of current, even though at the instant of pi, when this T1 and T3 are reverse biased and this inductor begins to discharge through this thyristors T3, T1 and the source, the current doesn't come to zero until the next pair of thyristors are being triggered. See, you will be able to see here. At the instant of alpha, thyristors T1 and T3 are triggered. So the voltage, the source voltage which is provided to them will be available across this load, that is across this armature terminal. So we will be getting the source voltage from alpha to pi. At the instant of pi, that is from alpha to pi, this inductor will be charging, that is shown very clearly here. At the instant of pi, the inductor begins to discharge. Even though this thyristors T1 and T3 are reverse biased, they won't get turned off because during the discharge of this thyristors there will be a flow of current through them. Hence they remains to be in turned on state itself. So from pi to pi plus alpha till the next thyristors or the next pair of thyristors are triggered, there will be a continuous conduction through this thyristors T1 and T3 due to the discharge current. Hence, from alpha to pi plus alpha, the supply voltage will be available across this armature terminals, that is being shown here. At pi plus alpha, the thyristors T2 and T4 are triggered, and again the waveforms gets repeated. So while comparing with this discontinuous conduction waveforms, here it is very clearly seen that the current doesn't come to zero value at any part of its operation. That's why this particular mode of operation is said to be continuous conduction mode. So this continuous conduction mode can be achieved, or this continuous conduction operation can be achieved only when the load torque requirement is quite large. When the load torque requirement is large, as you are quite familiar, here the load torque is actually the load is actually the motor. So the load torque is large means, since torque is directly proportional to Ia, the current taken by the motor also will be large. While changing from low torque to a large torque load, definitely the current which is being taken by this DC motor, or the current taken by this armature of the DC motor also will be large. But the inductor which is the inductor which is inside the DC motor doesn't allow sudden change of this current. Due to this, we will be able to achieve continuous conduction mode of operation in the case of a single phase fully controlled rectifier for DC motor. Hope it's clear for you. you have already studied about them in power electronics, but there you have studied in a different manner. There you have studied that you will be able to obtain continuous mode of operation while replacing the inductor over here with a large value. Both are correct only. Since these two resistance and inductor are connected in series, their time constant will be LA by RA. And from their impedance triangle, we can write that tan phi is equal to omega LA divided by RA. You have to keep that in your mind. Those two relations, so you have studied them in your basic electrical engineering course. That is, for a series RL load, the time constant is actually LA by RA. Here it is actually LA by RA. And if you are drawing the impedance triangle for this impedance, that is RA and LA, you will be able to write the power factor relation, that is tan phi is actually XLA divided by RA. Just keep that in your mind. With that, we are completing today's session. In the next session, we will be seeing the mathematical analysis for both discontinuous as well as continuous mode of operation of a single phase fully controlled of a DC motor or a DC drive.